Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher and the founder of Impeak. My guest on today's podcast is Macey Bluebell. Many of you may be familiar with Macey from her work at the Coin Bureau YouTube channel. I ran into Macey at the last Coin Bureau conference in London, and I invited her to be on the podcast. We spent most of this podcast talking about their move to Dubai and the future of Web3 in the face of regulatory barriers. I think many of you will find this conversation helpful, especially if you're thinking about more Web3 friendly jurisdictions. Well, Macy, thank you so much for being here. I've been watching Coin Bureau for a very long time, and you often make appearances. And I really love those segments where you come in and you talk from a different perspective. Sometimes you share your own experiences that maybe Guy is not necessarily maybe looking at a time. So it's all really cool. Always great to see you there. And also, I really loved the conference that you put on in London.
Thank you.
And I know that that was mostly your hard work. So to make that
Yes.
happen, so that was great.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming as well, because I know that's where we first met. So
Yeah, it's so good. These IRL events are so great, and it's just a shame that we don't have more of them in London, because more and more things are happening in the US. So I feel like we really need to, or I want to really kind of like start doing more things in London and make London the hub of all these things in Europe. So
definitely. I think there's a huge potential for London to grow. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff happening in Europe and specifically in the US as well. I've just moved to Dubai and there's a lot of stuff happening here, maybe a bit too much sometimes. It's very
really,
busy. There's stuff happening like nearly every single day, and the crypto community here is really strong. So it's good on that front. But I think sometimes when there's too much happening, it can get really oversaturated. But I definitely agree with you. Like I was living in London for about 2 years before I moved here, and while I joined the Coin Bureau, and I didn't feel like there was that much happening in the space, and that's probably one of the reasons why I thought doing the conference was, such a good idea, because there is such a big community in London and the UK, and there's just not enough of these in real life events. And yeah, I think it's just a great experience for everyone to get together, to meet other people who are maybe living near you that you didn't even realize were into crypto, because it's such a niche still. And unless you're working in it, like I'm very lucky to work in it every single day, and obviously you'll feel the same as me, but most people who are like traders, they have their regular 9 to 5 job and they do it as a hobby. So unless they come to these kind of meetings and conferences, they don't ever really get to hang out with other people who are into crypto. So yeah, I think it was a really nice experience. It was a great conference, and I'm definitely looking to do another one next year. So yeah, I'll
in
make sure to give
London.
you an invite. Yes, in
Okay,
London. Yeah.
nice. Okay. But of course, you probably remember that I think like in the whole room, there were like maybe less than 5% women. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I was quite surprised. I was actually really shocked because I thought there'd be like me and maybe two other women. So I was quite surprised that there were actually a lot more women there than I expected. So,
But yeah,
but
but still
still,
it was like less than 5%. But you had some good amount of women among the speakers. So that was helpful. Yes.
yeah, I think that's something that definitely, I was glad because I think we had 3 female speakers. So we had a high number of speakers there. And I actually, quite a lot of the guests and the male guests were coming to me and saying, like, why are you not speaking on stage? Like, we'd love to hear from you. And
Yeah, and
yeah, it
why
was
didn't
really,
you?
I don't know. I think because basically, like, the event was organized completely by myself. It was a lot to organize, and it was like way more to put in than I like first anticipated. And I was there like the evening before setting everything up. I'd barely slept all week, and I think because I was obviously in charge of the operations on the day, I think if I'd have also added on like a discussion on stage. I think that might have just thrown me over the edge. But the one that I'm planning for next year, we have like a team coming in to help with me. So there'll be people helping me set up and helping do everything beforehand. So the logistics will be taken care of. So I think this, like the next event for next year, I think I'll definitely be able to get involved in some of the panel discussions. So, which I'm looking forward to, because yeah, it would have been really nice for me to get on stage, and obviously the audience recognize me, and yeah, so next time I'll definitely try to not put too much effort into the logistics and have some more free time to get on stage and join in, because yeah, I think there's still a lack of females in the space. It's still very highly saturated, and you know, the more of us that can get out there and speak and represent, it's really important. So I think yeah, I'll definitely do some speaking
We
next
should
time.
definitely, yeah, definitely. Let me know. I'm happy to help as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your move to Dubai. So the whole company has moved to Dubai.
So we have the core members here. We're still a very small team. There's 5 of us in Dubai at the moment. We have a couple of our other team members. They're spread out across the globe, you know, very decentralized. And one of the reasons why we decided to come to Dubai is because beforehand we had myself and Guy. We were based in London, and then we had someone else in Canada. We had someone in Edinburgh. You know, we were all over the place. And you know, while that's the nature of the business, it's the nature of crypto. Everyone's spread out everywhere. Everything's done remotely on your laptop. We thought it would be a great opportunity to bring everyone together and actually work under one roof. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why. But we still have quite a few people who are just spread out everywhere, like more of the research team who are just deep into reading articles all day long. So yeah, but about 5 of us are here at the moment.
And was the regulation or regulatory environment one of the reasons why you chose that, would you say?
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons. First of all, it's obviously the Middle East is central to a lot of different places where we might be traveling for work or potentially a future conference. Also the fact that it is a crypto hub here. Like I said, since I've been here, the amount of people that I've met in the industry and the amount of events that are happening, how open everyone is here as well. Like people share contacts here quite a lot in the crypto community. So that's another one of the reasons. And of course, tax is another one of the reasons. Like I'm not even gonna lie, that's one of
Yeah,
the
can
high
you tell me
reasons.
more about that? Because I think a lot of people listening to this, like I'm considering it myself. I won't lie, I'm not a big fan of living in Dubai, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm originally from Iran. So the culture is not very female friendly. And the thing is that, especially if they know that you are maybe like you're originally from Iran or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would still think of you as one of them and not necessarily as a, you know, a European
Like an
connection. So
expat or
yeah,
something.
exactly. So even if I'm a British citizen, you know, like they would still think of you as not a Westerner, right? And as a result of that, the treatment is a specific way, you know, for
Okay.
towards women, right? Like there's generally, it's difficult for me to discuss these things because it's hard to generalize, but this has been my experience over and over. And I grew up in Iran. I was born and brought up in Iran.
Yeah.
And I came to the UK when I was 23. And I studied here, paid for my own education, you know, got 2 masters in political science and philosophy of science and technology, then went into media, worked as a TV producer, and then went into, you know, Web3. So, and of course, also I have another company as well, which is a marketing agency. So I've been here, you know, for a long time, and now I'm a British citizen. But whenever I go to the Middle East, there is I don't want to say lack of respect, but there's some level of thinking of women as almost like a secondary, second citizen, or what do they say? Like, you know, like not
Yeah.
quite the same level of respect that you would get as a man or even as European Western
Yeah.
kind of. So I have this concern about moving to Dubai. And of course, it's also the weather, right? Like it's just too hot and you're indoors.
It's just started to get quite nice because obviously it's coming into their winter. So there's like I went for a walk earlier in the middle of the day and I'm wearing a black dress and I wasn't like running inside sweating because when I first got here it was August and I was like, how am I going to live here? Because yeah, it was way too hot and then you go inside and then it's freezing cold because the aircon's on everywhere. But yeah, it's just started to cool down, so it's bearable now. But that's another thing, you're either too hot outside or then you're spending all your time indoors. And yeah, I mean it's literally like it's a concrete desert, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
and going back to what you said about not wanting to live here, I think me personally as well, if it didn't benefit my work and there wasn't the lucrative like tax initiative, I probably would be elsewhere as well. But obviously for work it's great and for future like saving money is great here. So I'm trying to look at it that way,
But
like a
so
small investment of my time.
tell me more about the tax stuff, because isn't it like the cost of living higher? I mean, it's not a cheap place, right? So isn't it
No,
like
it's not.
Monaco, where like for example, people go to Monaco not to save, not to pay tax, but actually it's the cost of living is so high that it works out of that the same. So how does that part of it work? Is it because they're specifically being lenient for towards the crypto and Web3? Do you know this community called Bedu?
What, I think I've heard of them
They're
before.
like they're working on a UAE metaverse strategy. They're gonna come and
Okay.
do a session on our platform. Yeah, so is it because of the specific, attitude towards crypto that you find that very beneficial?
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of new legislations are coming into place in Europe specifically, which is where I resided before. And here they actually, there's like legislations, there's initiatives for crypto. So the government here are doing a lot of things to be like to benefit people who use crypto, and they have new things coming in all the time. And like I obviously don't speak to any of these people, but I actually spoke to a couple of crypto Web3 lawyers yesterday who might be attending some of the events next year. And yeah, they were telling me about like new initiatives coming into place, all the benefits that the government are trying to give to crypto companies and to allow people to use blockchain here in Web3, which I think for me, like, I think that's really innovative because Europe, on the other hand, are doing the opposite and they're trying to sanction people and stop people using it. And I even had a message the other day from my bank in the UK telling me you can't send any money to your crypto wallet and you can't take it out. So to me, that's like they're banning the use of crypto. Whereas here, that doesn't happen. And, they're actually trying to come up with technology and ways where retail businesses can use crypto and people can use crypto in their business. They can use metaverse for their business. And I think that's really important. And that's another reason why I do like Dubai, is because they're thinking ahead and they know that this thing isn't going to go away. And instead of trying to reject it, they're actually welcoming it, which I like. And they're trying to be like forward thinking and be involved in the community rather than cutting ties with everyone and banning people from using it. And yeah, I think that's a huge difference from Europe to Dubai. Europe is doing the opposite. Dubai is actually thinking, this is the next big thing and how do we get involved? So yeah, that's another positive.
That's interesting. I think this conversation will be super interesting to so many people, because many people are thinking about, where do I go to build a business, around these technologies. So a lot is happening in the US. A lot, like like all the most amazing events are in the US. So let's say like Art Basel, like when I look at people who were at Art Basel this week, I couldn't go because I need a visa, because even though I'm a British citizen, I need a visa. Apparently, this was a new thing that Trump put in place, where if you were born in Iran, you would need a visa to go to the US. I didn't need a visa before. I could get an ESTA. But last year when I tried to go to NFT NYC, I had everything ready, my flight, everything, right? And then when I went to get my ESTA, they said that I didn't qualify for it, and then I found out that it was a new thing. So, and then they gave me a visa appointment for like 7 months later. So my visa appointment is in January. Yeah. So, but once I get that, then I will get a 10-year visa where I would be able to spend 6 months a year in the US. So yeah, so there's so much happening in the US, and I don't know how people are managing it, because the regulations in the US is no better than EU, right? So so it's fascinating to look at how companies, businesses are managing to still build. And maybe this is the reason why so many people are anonymous, because they are, they're trying to make money in ETH or in Bitcoin, mostly in ETH. People who are, actually building businesses, because Bitcoin is not really used quite the same way as ETH. So they're trying to earn in ETH, then they try to stay anonymous, and that's how they survive in the US. Yeah, so a lot of people are doing that. But so what are your thoughts on, how small can it get for areas where it's going to be crypto friendly, and everybody's going to kind of move? It's not like everybody's going to move to Dubai, right? So how is this going to proliferate in the long run? You guys are doing a lot of research, right? So you obviously think that this technology is going to be, worldwide eventually. But is it going to be worldwide if it's like only there are a few small places where you can use this technology so freely?
Yeah, I think myself personally, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think it will be. And I think that the more the governments try to stop this stuff happening, the bigger the use case becomes for decentralization and for cryptocurrency. Because, for example, right now they're building their CBDCs. Well, that's like terrifying for me personally, for people who might be using them, because that just gives the government more control, and they can see what you're spending, they can stop you spending, they can punish you if you speak out against them or you do something wrong. And I think this just builds an even bigger use case. I was talking to someone the other day actually about this, and particularly in countries where the government have put sanctions on people, they see a really big use case for cryptocurrency, blockchain, and for the Web3 space. Western countries like Europe, America, the UK, we've never been in a situation where, like, even in the 2008 recession, we were hit quite hard, but the banks were able to recover people's money. So we've never been put in a situation where we need to question anything. So I can understand why people are skeptical about the technology still. But then for countries, for example, like we had it in Canada recently, the government stopped people's bank accounts. Russians who have nothing to do with the war, but they're just Russian citizens, had their funds stopped. And a way that people were able to send money was cryptocurrency. And I think the government's probably scared because they can't take control of this. And how do governments survive? They take control and they take money off people, and that's how they fund themselves. But with cryptocurrency, it's hard for them to do that. And I get what you're saying, and I can see why people might be skeptical, but I think the more they put like bans on things and they stop people using certain things and applications, people will actually start to think, like, why are they doing this, and how is there a way that we can avoid this situation? And one of those ways is Web3 technology. And that's why, I just think there's a huge use case, not even just with like funds, but other things as well, like digital identities, freedom of speech, for example, like you saying you're from Iran, like the stuff that's happening in Iran right now, and people are being completely silenced, shut down. Like the mainstream media aren't even talking about it. So I think with Web3, there's so many things that we can build on, and we can stop this happening in the future. And that's probably why governments like UK, Europe, USA are trying to crack down as much as possible, because they're probably scared, and I'm not surprised, to be honest.
No, definitely. It's pretty scary where things are going, especially with the CBDCs.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, for people listening, thinking, maybe wanting to build businesses. When you come into Dubai, what can you expect? Like, what happens? What's the process? Just a bit of an inside knowledge into, what's the process like? Whether you are a European citizen or you're a US citizen. I feel like you're like an advertising for Dubai.
I know.
You
I
get
hope
sponsored by the Dubai government. But yeah, look,
I hope so.
tell me a little bit about that, because just an inside knowledge of what to expect.
Yeah, so I can't talk from a business perspective because obviously I came as part of the business. But I know from what I've heard that it was quite difficult to get everything established in terms of bank accounts, because there's quite a lengthy process here. It's not as fast as when you're in the UK and Europe to set up a bank account. But I arrived on a visa. I had my visa stamped in the airport. I sent my copy off to an agency that I was dealing with. And there's a lot of agencies here as well. So people shouldn't have any difficulty with speaking to people, getting help. There's even specific companies here which help with crypto companies. So they'll do everything for you. They'll find out where you can have a business and set everything up for you. But going back to my personal experience, sent my visa off, then you go in for medical checks, make sure that you're not bringing anything into the country. Once the medical is confirmed, then you get your final visa, and then once you have your final visa, you get your ID, and then once you have your ID, your Emirates ID, everything just becomes really simple, because then you can get a bank account, you can get a phone contract, you can go get an apartment. Before that, it's quite not frustrating, but it's quite, kind of like you're sitting in limbo waiting for things to happen, and it takes a while to get going. But saying that, I was here for about 2 months before everything had been finalized, so it's not too bad. But I guess it's the same when you move anywhere, you're starting from the bottom and then trying to set everything up. So it's more just like the setting up of everything that's frustrating, because you're
But
like,
you can
oh,
still work, right?
yeah. So I came in on a working visa, so I was able to work. And I think there's different types of visas that you can get. The one that I had was I come into the country and then I do everything while I'm here. There are some other visas where you can apply while you're out of the country and you have your visa before you arrive here. So you could straight away, for example, go and get your apartment, bank account. I had to wait slightly, but yeah, like everything was fine because I had my working visa. So I think as long as you have some form of visa in place, you're okay to come and to work here, but not legal advice. I don't just in case.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how the recent collapses. I was going to say the recent collapse, but there's been so many of them.
Oh my god, yeah, which one?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so this year, how has this year impacted, like I'm guessing that these kind of more lenient approaches to crypto and Web3 started out in the bull run. So how's the bear market? How are they dealing with the bear market over there? And and with all the collapses.
I think what everyone's trying to do right now is just, first of all, we're obviously a media platform, so we're trying to bring education. We're doing a lot of research, trying to get the right information out there. I know a lot of projects are using this time to build and develop, to make sure that their product is perfect, ready for the next bull run. And yeah, just that there's not really anything anyone else can do. But I think, next year is going to be a really rough time for the markets. It's not going to pick up all of a sudden. In fact, it could get a lot worse. And I think although it's a bad place to be and you're kind of in the trenches, it can be quite scary at times. It's also quite good because you're weeding out those bad projects, so it's like only the strong survive, kind of thing, which is really cheesy, but but yeah, it's weeding out the bad projects, making sure that the good projects are developing, and when we come to say 2024, when the next Bitcoin halving is, we have these really strong use cases to then bring in more mass adoption. We can bring in new retail companies who might be interested in the space, and we have everything in place so that things like this don't happen. And it's unfortunate that these things do have to happen, but we're still a very young industry, and I think these mistakes, they're prone to happen when it's such a new industry still. So yeah, and I think as well, like the previous couple of years, like you said, a lot of things have been really hype driven. When the markets are up, everyone has money to spend and anyone can build a project, and things fall through the cracks because everyone's so busy as well. Like when we're in a bull run, everyone's busy dealing with customers or trying to get content out quickly, and you tend to miss these things that you might pick up on in another case. So yeah, I think although it's going to be a rough time next year, I think it's also going to be really good for the long-term perspective of things.
So do you think that your personal approach and your personal kind of conviction of the space, do you ever wake up in the morning and doubt it?
Yeah, I do, especially when these things happen. Yeah, I mean, not to the point that I don't believe in it. I just think I get frustrated because I know that there's so many people out there that already doubt the industry, that it frustrates me as somebody who's in the industry to think that, when, like, for example, the FTX thing happened, big headlines cover that, and then the mainstream media pushes it out, and then people who are already skeptical about crypto, that's all they see. Like, they don't see the good things, they see the negative things. And then that just frustrates me because I think, like, I know what's being built and I deal with projects all the time, and I know that there's great projects out there and there's really good use cases, but I feel like instead of the media covering those good use cases, something like this happens with SBF and FTX and Alameda, and all of a sudden the media picks it up, and then all the doubters are like, yeah, it's a scam, and it's going to zero. But I don't think, for all the times that I get frustrated, like I'll always believe in the industry, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think if anything, it's just going to keep growing. The more that people see good things happening, the more people are going to kind of flock to it and realize that it's, there are use cases there and it is valuable and people can use it really well. So yeah, I think it's not that I don't believe, I think it's just that I get slightly frustrated, especially when, we had the Luna thing, and I thought that was crazy in of itself, and I was like, that has to be it. And then of course this happened, and I was just like so shocked. And I think especially with the exchange being the exchange that it was, and SBF being this like savior or whatever, him being this good guy, for that to happen, it's like, wow. And you just, like, I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming at all, and I don't think many people did. So
no, and it's like, who can you trust, right? Like,
exactly.
First it was Alex Mashinsky, and I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it because he was such a presence in the media, right? And then SBF, and it's like, who can you trust? Like, who can you trust?
I know, exactly. And I think, yeah, they're the times that I just think, what is happening? Why is this happening? Why, like you said, you thought this person is someone different to who they actually are, and then it all unravels, and then you start seeing things, you're like, why didn't I pick up on that? Like, why didn't I see that before? But yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things, and I think the market doesn't help any of these situations. Like I said, I think while the market's down, things get weeded out, and we just have to come back stronger from it, I guess. We just have to try and be positive. And
yeah, but it's quite interesting because as opposed to the previous bear markets, there's so much going on still. Like for example, we have this educational platform, we have daily live sessions, people are coming in learning about. I really think that NFTs have had a big impact on the cultural aspect of
100%.
like honestly, like if it wasn't for NFTs, this bear market would be a lot worse because of the NFTs. A lot of people who got into the space, they are attached to their JPEGs and and the culture that has been built around it.
Yeah.
So like we released our Genesis NFTs, we released at 0.1, and now it's sitting at 1.5 ETH in this market within 3 months, right? Like we released it 12 weeks ago. So in this market, it's still going up. And I just think like if we were in the bull market, how much better it would have been, So projects like us who are continuing to build in this market and who are, the people who are still holding on to those tokens and who are still coming into the Discord every day and coming onto the platform and staying engaged, those will be the winners of the next run.
Going back to what you said, I mean, it's completely different to the last bear market, and I think there's too much like being built into it already. And like look at all the huge companies that are part of NFTs and metaverse, for example, like the likes of Nike, Adidas, and if it wasn't a good use case, these companies wouldn't be involved in the first place. There's so much institutional money this time compared to the last bear market that I just can't imagine it going anywhere, which is why I think there's going to be great things built next year. There's going to be developments happening, and it's the perfect time to do so while the markets are down, in order preparing for the next bull. And like I said, these huge companies wouldn't be pouring money into it if it was a scam, or if it was going to zero. It wouldn't be happening. Like, they're smart companies, they have teams of thousands doing research, and yet they're still in the space. And even who released the sneakers last week? Was it Nike?
I can't remember. Nike with artifacts or something.
With artifact. So they literally released another set of NFTs.
It was, I think, because I spoke. It wasn't last week. I think it was like a little bit before that, because I spoke at a conference in Spain, and we showed the reel that they had for it, artifacts, with Nike. It's just fascinating. Yeah, exactly, it's happening. Like yesterday, I bought my G Money Admit One, new T-shirt that is in collaboration with Snowfro at Art Blocks. I bought it for 0.45 ETH, in this market. So there are still people who believe in that stuff. And
I think with the younger generation as well, like they're already in like the metaverse space. So I think that will only grow when the next generation also come up, because they're already using, like, they do like Roblox, and I mean, like Sims, for example. Like, you could talk about Sims being a use case for metaverse. Like not kids, but Gen Z, whatever, the Gen Z generation, they're already using like the type of infrastructure that the metaverse is, and they're just going to keep using it. So it's not going to go anywhere. If anything, when these Gen Zs come up and they start working, they're going to be implementing metaverse NFTs into the businesses that they're working in. So I think it's also here to stay.
Culturally, like, say, I can't imagine Gen Z, or Generation Alpha after that. I can't imagine them wanting to deal with banks, like wanting to deal with like payroll,
exactly,
like the way that the the bureaucracy of work. Like right now with DAOs, or even with like companies like us, like it's so much easier for me. I pay people in ETH because it's easier, because we are earning in ETH, you know, we are spending in ETH, and it's just so much easier, and everything is on the blockchain. You can go in and look at it, and you know, the level of, you know, and everything's happening on Discord, you know, like we just make an agreement and send the money, and you know, it's just the speed of operation is so much faster. I had to write a post for LinkedIn this morning for big ideas around the work culture next year. And I talked about how the work culture is becoming more and more flat and less hierarchical. And it started with the startup culture in Silicon Valley, but now it's with Web3, it's becoming even more flat. And so the big trends is, one is this whole idea of, you know, hiring people from different places. In some cases, hiring people who are pseudonymous, that you don't even know who they are. You know, it's becoming more and more common. And basically, you're dealing with people's on-chain identity as opposed to their IRL identity. And this whole idea of, you know, paying people with crypto, speeding up the whole process. So do you see any of these, what other kind of like trends do you see in the workspace? And actually, you know, we are going to have you on InPeak to talk about, you know, Web3 work culture and you know, working Web3. But what other big trends do you see coming up as a result of Web3?
I guess, going back to what you just said, the fact that people are working anonymous. I spoke to a company actually earlier today, and they're all anonymous, so I don't have a clue who they are. And they were speaking to me with like a voice thing as well, so I could barely hear like their natural voice. But yeah, a lot of anonymous working, and I guess more of metaverse as well, because obviously that comes into play quite a lot and could be quite useful for teams who are spread out globally, because like we saw with the COVID lockdowns, everyone started working from home, and to be honest, I don't really see the huge need for offices. There's like I mean, you know, we have an office, we can choose to be in the office or not, but I just don't see the point in them. Like, if you can work from home or you can work from a cafe or a coffee shop, then why not do that? And if we're not working from an office, you know, there's huge potential then for these big buildings to maybe not be there, and then maybe we can have more like wildlife and trees and things like that. So I think there could be a huge shift in the typical office environment. I think personally, I think there's no need for it, and I think with technology, how developed it is, there's just no need for anyone to be in the office dealing with each other. You can get on a Zoom call like we are. You're in London and I'm in Dubai, and we're speaking perfectly fine. And the more they develop the metaverse, there's obviously huge potential for people to interact within the metaverse in itself. And yeah, payments, obviously digital payments being a lot quicker, more sufficient, and everything being on chain, so you can actually see what's happening. So yeah, I think that's personally what I think will happen, and what we see happening already, especially with people working more remotely. And I think it makes sense, to be honest. Like,
yeah, definitely. In general, are you bullish on the future?
gosh, yes and no. I sometimes I think about this dystopian future where like no one's interacting with each other, but I think I'm more bullish. Like, I was speaking to someone else the other day as well about like VR technologies, and I saw a few things online on LinkedIn actually about VR. And yeah, I think as long as we don't go too deep into it where we're not having human interactions, and you know, it's like, what was the film, like Ready Player One, where everyone's constantly living in the metaverse. That would be scary. I don't want that. I do like human interaction, and I like speaking to people and seeing people's faces. But yeah, I think that specifically VR would be very interesting. You know, and yeah, I'd say I'm bullish. I'd say I'm bullish, but sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I freak myself out and wonder what might be. But yeah, generally bullish. I'll give you an updated answer in like a year.
Yeah, like it is one of those things that you need to update on an annual basis, maybe even sooner, every 6 months. You know,
Yeah.
I before being a Web3 entrepreneur, the main thing that I think I am, or I always talk about it that way, is that I'm a tech philosopher. So I studied philosophy of science and technology and political philosophy. And I think a lot about these things, and I've written a book about the future of work. So I think it's inevitable that technology is going to overtake us. You know, we will merge with it, but eventually it will overtake us, and fewer people are having children. You know, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think as long as life continues and intelligent life continues,
Exactly.
just think about the fact that we replaced apes, but we still live in it's not like they went extinct. They're still around, right? Like so
I mean, it could be quite a nice thing as well, because I know right now people are hustling all the time. Everyone's constantly working. You don't really get a chance to actually sometimes enjoy life itself. So that could be another good use case. You know, people can actually sit back and try and relax for a change, which is not the case at the moment.
As long as we don't spend all of our time watching Netflix.
I know, yeah, that's also the problem.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Macey. This has been so interesting, very eye-opening. It's really good to get an inside look into the way that you guys moved to Dubai, how you see the future. And I didn't ask you too much about the inner workings of Coin Bureau, because you guys do quite a lot of live streaming, and we get a sneak peek over there. But thank you for everything you're doing. It's really important. I think the work that you guys, the team, what you're doing is very, very important. You've had a huge impact on educating millions of people. So it's really amazing to see that, and I'm grateful for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me and everything you're doing as well. And we need to definitely meet up in London and have you at the next conference. So,
well, you never know. I might end up in Dubai.
I know, yes, I might see you sooner. But yeah, either way, we need to meet up again properly and talk properly. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Macey from Coin Bureau. Be sure to follow the Coin Bureau YouTube channel if you aren't already doing so. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, or any other one of your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and write a review. The full interviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.